What do you call a guy with no arms, no legs, sitting on your front doorstep? Matt.
Oh my god!
What do you call a guy with no arms, no legs, floating in your pool? Bob.
Oh no!
What do you call a guy with no arms, no legs, hanging off your wall? Art.
Horace!
And what do you call somebody with no body and no nose? Nobody knows.
Oh my god.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Alphastar cast. This might just be the best one we've ever gotten our hands on, though, because this guy is the only non-Korean to have ever won Blizzcon. I'm not going to list as many accolades because it would take way too long. Ladies and gentlemen, to the top left, I present to you the world champion, Serral. And his opponent to the bottom right is, of course, the suspected artificial intelligence developed by Deepmind. It is Alphastar. Now, Rifkin, how do you know it's Alphastar? And how do we know Serral really played Alphastar? Well, a couple of checks you can do, of course, as we do with all these Alphastar videos. First and foremost, check the control groups. Serral is using control groups because he's human. Alphastar is not because it's a robot. They don't click, they don't use functions the same way. The artificial intelligence, the neural network, however it works, it doesn't have a mouse. The other thing you can always check too, of course, is the APM. Oh my god, Serral, what are you doing? Leave your poor keyboard's on fire, stop it! Versus the EPM. And as you can see, the player APM and EPM are always going to be pretty different. Whereas Alphastars will remain somewhat consistent. Although we've learned through the Zerg Alphastars, sometimes this can be a bit more erratic because of the larva production, but that's neither here nor there. So there's your checks and whistles, guys. I don't have an exact date of when this game was played out, but I do know it was about a week before GSL versus the World took place, where, spoiler alert, surprise, surprise, Serral killed all the Koreans again. But he had tweeted that it was laughable. He thought this was a funny match or something, so I couldn't wait to get my hands on it and see just how this went. I mean, even without spoilers, without knowing concretely the results of this, it's Serral. The top tier players in Korea can't touch him. How could Alphastar? You would have to unleash the version of Alphastar that had like unlimited APM and was broken as hell fighting TLO and Mana when it debuted. Only that version of Alphastar would really have a chance against Serral, I would imagine. But as I said, I don't think I'm casting this to anybody to have the results hidden, more so just watching how this ends up playing out. AI versus human, man versus machine. The story as old as the legend of John Henry, right? But here's the thing. I've seen a lot of Alphastar's Terran, and it's probably one of my favorite versions of the AI to watch. It's got some very cool builds. It's got some gross pushes. If you guys didn't see the game of Neeb versus Alphastar, of course I'm going to be linking it up here, but Neeb versus Alphastar had, they pulled the boys, there was tanks, it was great. It was so cool to watch. So we know there's a lot of variety in Alphastar's playstyle. Apparently, there's not a lot of smarts, though, when it comes to controlling the Reaper, because it's very clearly trying to walk into the natural base from an unpathable location. But anyways, whether it's tanks or not, we'll see. We do know that the newer agents of Alphastar on the ladder have had different builds than the initial ones, so maybe it won't be mass tanks. Maybe it'll be something a little bit different in variety. Either way, the Reaper up here gets caught pretty quickly, and it has been dealt with. You know, cool thing about Serral, too, for those who didn't catch it, his country actually gave him a plot of land right outside like a golf course where they held a tournament in his honor. It is so cool knowing that there's so much pride for these like online accomplishments. In America, you know, we're watching all these political debates and like, oh, video games cause violence and esports are still not recognized. Whereas you take Serral's homeland and it's just like, oh, dude, you just like went on the world stage. That's great. Let's give you land. How cool is that? How crazy is that difference, right? Anyways, the Overlord here for Serral's going to get a pretty good scout to see what's going on. Sees the medevac pop out too, so there's just nothing weird like a Liberator. A Hellion run by tries to go off while this goes on, but the Hellions are pushed off very nicely here by the Queens. It is a Liberator follow-up. It's also Stim on the way for Alphastar. Third base, just mining away, natural, pretty well saturated. I mean, this is what's so great about Serral. His macro is definitely one of his stronger points. You also see him placing some spore crawlers along the edge, very much anticipating said Liberator. And this wall actually, oh god, this is so, it's so eerie looking at this sometimes, because this wall, I've seen this wall out of Koreans and Europeans alike. It's one of these things where, honest to God, if I didn't have the replay and I didn't have access to the tools to check, this as far as I'm concerned, it's just some random Masters player who's a barcode on the ladder. But yeah, this is absolutely the real deal. Now, I don't know if some of these Alpha Stars are hitting Grandmaster. I know that a lot of them started playing unranked, so it was a lot harder to track, but it's kind of cool just seeing the macro so on point. Plenty of banelings. On creep could take a fight here. Off creep might be a little bit more difficult. Yeah, macro the main's holding strong too for Alphastar. Stim's done. This isn't going to be like a big timing push. But +1's on the way. I'm sure we'll see combat shields follow up very quickly as well. And Serral's going for double Evo, so we're going to have some upgrades come down over here too. God, I'm just sitting here smiling so much that I get to cast Serral again, though, because I think it's not been since, like, Home Story Cup. I'm pretty sure, actually, Home Story Cup back last year in November was probably the last time I actually got to cast Serral. This guy has just been too big for base trade TV, and not even in an egotistical way. The guy's winning every WCS event he goes to. He's a champion by all rights. I'm glad, in a way, we're not seeing him, because it means he's doing so well, but at the same time, I've missed casting Serral, and watching him play is just so fluid. Catches all of this. Medevac starts moving over. There's not a lot of space to unload, and there's a Spore Crawler waiting, so, I mean, this doesn't have a lot of longevity to it. Drones get pulled, and hardly, no, in fact, no workers have died so far. Okay, a couple now. But still, like, up to this point, Serral has played this about as perfectly on the defense as you could. You'll notice he doesn't have a lot of drones. You might think that's not so great, but that's also because he's been on top of building army units and not taking unnecessary risks, not playing greedy. And even though he might just be kind of whatever on the ladder, it's another one ladder point for him because his MMR is so high, he can't win points off people anymore. He's still taking it seriously, and I think that's what is so impressive about him. A lot of players, you know, if you play a guy who's like 1,000 MMR less than you, you might screw around a little bit, you might have some jokes, but not Serral. He's actually taken every aspect of these 7 minutes seriously so far. 1-1's about halfway done too for the Lings. That'll match up well for this. That Overlord deleted. This, okay, I'm convinced at this point it's a replay bug. I don't know what the deal is, but the Overlords and things that die in replays just disappear. There's no evidence. There's no body. This is nice too. Already on top of the drop. A mistake to load into Lings. Realizing this, Alphastar pulls back. Back at home for Alphastar though, kind of playing a little bit as we expected. Starting to get some siege tanks out, but oh god, that is the worst supply depot of all time. This is like Alphastar thinking it's like a reactor. But you know, normally when we see Alphastar play these tanks, it's like 7 to 13 tanks. It's not the measly 3 to 4 that we have now. But there's been a lot more emphasis on drops. There's been a lot more emphasis on harassment, taking this third base, for example. So this is definitely not the exact same version of Alphastar we've seen before. It does seem to have a very different set of priorities, but for the most part, it seems to be on the same course. Actually, you know what? I would even say, taking it one step further, I'm now realizing I don't know that I've seen Alphastar play with Liberators up to this point. And I've cast a lot of Alphastar Terran games. Oh no. Oh no. 6 health. And that medevac's actually gonna... No, it doesn't. Just kidding. Serral's a god. I forgot. You know, Serral's one of these guys. I could put the... If I hit both names... Oh god. If I hit both names on the overlay, honestly, you might even think Serral was the Alphastar in this case. But Alphastar, Alpha Male, either way, he's doing pretty dang good. And, you know, Resources Lost kind of reflects something very interesting to me. In any version of TVZ, high level or not, a lot of the time, the way this works out is Terran does lots of little trades and gradually gets ahead slowly over time. But that's actually not been the case. The Resources Lost favors Serral quite heavily. And it is kind of bad medevac control like we just saw that's mostly accountable for that. But I'm just saying, if you look at the Resources Lost alone and saw nothing else in this game, you'd be like, huh, what's going on here? It's not a bad fight to take. Banley's coming in now, though. Scoops up in the medevacs. Oof, this is so dangerous, though. These queens out of Serral have been huge. Taking a fight off creep is maybe doable, but taking a fight on creep is very unlikely to go well. This base has been denied, canceled, and pushed off, I think, thrice now. So Alphastar decided to just say screw it and took this base instead. But still trying to take a 4th on location. Not a terrible idea. It's covered by tanks, obviously, but every time Serral dips in, that base gets canceled. Oh my god, it's the weak medevac leading the charge. No! Like 3 Marines died inside of it. Oh my goodness, the control here has just been not on point. The Liberator's been very confused here by these Spore Crawlers. Medevacs are constantly getting picked off by Queens. I think that maybe what's really impressive too is like the army supply still holds strong against what Alphastar has been losing, and Alphastar's been losing a lot. And I think if this was like any regular Masters player on the ladder, I don't even think Alphastar would be that far behind, to be honest, despite these terrible losses. But against Serral, yo, you cannot make mistakes against Serral. He's also on Hive Tech, by the way. Sorry, I neglected to point this out. We've been watching so much of these medevacs die and be handled kind of poorly. Oh no, again in the top side. That's going to be another huge supply drop. Ugh. But he's on Hive Tech. He's got Ultralisk Cavern on the way. We don't see Ultras too often, but you know what? Against somebody who's going primarily Marine Tank, this makes a lot more sense than Broodlords. Broodlords can make sense too, don't get me wrong. But that Chitinous Plating's going to have no problem chewing through this with no Marauders, no Ghosts. Tanks aren't even that good because an Ultra soaks all the splash damage. Base over here canceled again. I hate to say it, I feel like the old version of Alphastar would have fared better than this newer version that's tried to use Liberators. Because that pressure for Marine Tank can be really strong in the early game, but as we're witnessing here, it's not proving that great in the late game. Serral's not just got a lot of money to work with, and I don't mean like through a banked up amount, I mean through income. But he's also just got a lot of larva banked up now too. Well, he had until his production just put in a bunch of links. But the point is, like, he's got an army after his army's dead. This was a kill, not a cancel on that command center too. So basically, Serral has put his foot down, his little Ling Stomper, and said this base is never going to finish, not before this game is done. Chitinous Plating, 3-3. Oh, it's all the Zerg upgrades you could want to have right now. And what I like about this too is it's not super flashy. You know, there's some players out there like Rogue. Rogue's a really fun Zerg player to watch versus Terran, and he's won games not even going for Ultras, just simply with Lings and Banelings and really good control. But I feel like that's a very flashy style, and it's a little risky to be a little gambly. Serral not playing like that at all, just comes in and dominates straight up. All these Banelings roll in, doesn't care. Because no matter what he loses here, he's going to replace, and every single frontline unit for the Terran goes down, minus what's in the sky. And the problem is, because there's 10 medevacs in the sky, that's like 20-something supply in the army. That's not really army supply, right? Like, this is a 72 to 64. It doesn't look that bad. Realistically, this is like 84 to like 46. It's a situation where Serral is so in control of this game. It's actually insane. But here's the problem. We're comparing Alphastar to Alphastar, but what we really should be noting is that it's against Serral. And truthfully, I don't think any version of the Terran Alphastar, new or old, would be able to take on this titan of a human being. And yes, there's a little hyperbole there, but I think the fact still says true, where like unless we had like the unlimited crazy APM, like Insano version that we saw at that Deepmind display with Mana and TLO, unless we saw that version, I really don't think any version would stand a chance against Serral. But the things I really want to highlight from this game that I find just absolutely fascinating watching. Well, first off, the fourth base actually finishes. But despite taking like terrible medevac fights and losing full medevacs full of units, Alphastar has consistently remained up enough in army supply that at least he's matching Serral for most of the game. He's not getting ahead, and she's not getting any sort of situation where, you know, Alphastar's got a big lead, but it's never been like a 2-to-1 on the army supply throughout this entire game. No matter how often this base has been delayed, no matter how low the SCV count's been in comparison, the macro from Alphastar has been pretty dang solid throughout most of this, and I think that part is the part I would take away from this game. Oh, it didn't really take a fourth. It took the main base over to the fourth. I just thought, like, finally, after years of fighting back against Serral, Alphastar finally built a fourth base. It's just the main. Oh god, these Ultralisks are daunting. Here's the thing, too. I do wonder if Alphastar's neural network is prepared to deal with Ultralisks or not. Because a lot of what we've seen out of these games from Alphastar, they're like 10-minute, 12-minute games, or if they are 30 minutes, it's just on low-tech back and forths. This is a game where it's coming up against the ultimate, like, end game for Zerg. And I don't know that she has an answer. God, 20 medevacs have died this game. I don't care about the Marines. Whatever for the Marines. 20 medevacs is huge. That also means that Alphastar, she's gotten remade a bunch of them too. Oh, no! Did that feel like slow motion to anyone else watching? That was just like a slow green wave washing over the Terran army. The Ultralisks have their speed upgrade too. It's that little trail of wind you see behind them. This lets them move 10% faster off creep, but it also allows them to stay in front of the Banelings, so they take the shots with the tanks, and the Banelings still roll right on by. There's nothing much left to fight against this. Most of the medevacs that were living through these battles have died. Ultralisks are just domination here towards the end of this game, and more Banelings colliding on what few SCVs the Ultralisks leave for them. And at this point, I think this is about as expected as the game could have gone for Alphastar. Bottom left, new base. Hey, that's a bold attempt. A for effort, Alphastar, but F's in the comment for execution. I mean, the ramp's actually down, as in, like, there's literally no wall up here. It's been busted. GG's get called. As expected, ladies and gentlemen, Serral defeats Alphastar. Oh, man, that was a really good one. I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. If you did, make sure, of course, to comment on the videos. Press that little like button and subscribe if you want to see more Alphastar casts in the future. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.